Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English for Every Day, your daily place to practice and grow in English. I'm so happy to have you here today. Get ready for a relaxing and enjoyable English speaking practice session with a romantic story titled She Found Love in Paris. As we go through the story, I'll guide you to repeat key sentences, learn useful phrases, and speak with confidence. So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea, and let's begin. Are you ready? Let's go! Have you ever dreamed of falling in love in a city where every street feels like a movie scene? Imagine walking alone through Paris, unsure of where you're going, only to find something, or someone, that changes everything. Today, you're going to practice English with a beautiful story. A story that is simple, emotional, and perfect for learning. This story is about Emma, a young woman who traveled to Paris to escape her daily routine. She thought she was just running away, but in the City of Lights, she discovered something much more powerful than she ever expected. As you listen, you will hear slow and clear English, so you can understand easily. You'll improve your vocabulary, your listening skills, and your pronunciation. And you can repeat the sentences aloud to practice your speaking. So, are you ready to improve your English and enjoy a romantic story at the same time? What if love speaks louder than words? What happens when a stranger becomes something more? And can a single moment truly change your life forever? Let's begin the story of how she found love in Paris. Arriving in Paris. Emma stepped off the train at Gare du Nord with a small suitcase and a big heart full of questions. The air felt different, fresher, lighter, filled with the smell of coffee, croissants, and distant cigarette smoke. This was Paris, a city she had only seen in movies. Now it was her reality. She had just quit her job back home. Everyone told her she was crazy. Who leaves a safe life for something so uncertain? But Emma needed change. She needed to feel something again. And Paris was her wild card. The first days weren't magical. They were confusing. She got lost, twice. She ordered sparkling water, thinking it was still. The barista at the cafe smiled but didn't understand her accent. Everything felt unfamiliar. The streets were beautiful, yes, but she felt invisible in the crowd. She stayed in a small apartment in Montmartre. It had creaky floors, a tiny kitchen, and a window that opened to a quiet street with flowered balconies. At night, she sat by that window and wondered, did I make a mistake coming here? But there was also something else, a feeling, not comfort, not yet, but possibility. One evening, after a long walk, she stopped in front of a tiny English language bookstore. It was tucked between two larger buildings and almost invisible. Something about it pulled her in. A warm light glowed from inside. The wooden sign above the door read, Chapters and Coffee. She pushed the door open. A small bell rang. The smell of paper and fresh espresso filled the air. Inside, everything felt right. Books lined every wall, stacked in cozy chaos. In the corner, a man in a gray sweater was shelving paperbacks. He looked up, surprised. Emma smiled nervously. Hi, she said. He blinked, then smiled back. You're not from around here, are you? She laughed. Is it that obvious? He walked closer, wiping his hands on his jeans. A little. I'm Julienne, and this, he said, motioning to the shop, is home. For a moment, they stood in silence, not awkward, just still. Emma looked around. It's beautiful, Julienne nodded. Like the city, you just have to give it time. She stayed longer than she planned. She bought a used copy of The Little Prince. He handed her the bag and said, Come back anytime. And just like that, Paris started to feel less like a stranger and more like a story beginning to unfold. The unexpected meeting. Emma did come back, the next day and the one after that. Sometimes she browsed books, other times she just sat with tea, watching people pass by through the shop window. It became a safe place, a pause in the middle of the unknown. Julian was always there, usually rearranging books that didn't need rearranging. He had this calm energy, kind eyes, not overly talkative but present, thoughtful, and he remembered things, small things, like how she took her tea with no sugar or how she tilted her head when reading something deep. One afternoon, as Emma was flipping through a worn copy of Jane Eyre, Julian sat across from her and asked, "Why Paris?" She hesitated. No one had really asked her that. "Because I was stuck," she finally said. Everything back home felt like a loop I couldn't get out of. He nodded slowly. Paris can break loops or start new ones. They talked more that day about books, about music, about how she missed peanut butter and he couldn't stand cheddar cheese. Silly things, but real. English was not Julienne's first language, and Emma didn't speak French, but somehow their words found each other, and when they didn't, they laughed through the silence. There was something easy in being misunderstood together. Days passed. The bookstore became their routine. She'd bring pastries, he'd recommend books. Sometimes they said little, just shared the space. But something was shifting. One rainy morning, Emma walked in soaked and shivering. Julian handed her a towel and a dry scarf without a word. She looked at him, his eyes, his quiet smile, and something inside her cracked open. She realized then she wasn't alone anymore. Later that evening, as she was leaving, Julian stopped her at the door. He held out a small book wrapped in brown paper. "What's this?" she asked. "A gift," he said, "but you can't open it until tomorrow." Emma raised an eyebrow, curious but smiling. "You're very mysterious." Julian shrugged. "It's Paris. We do mystery well." The next morning, she opened the package in her apartment. It was a bilingual poetry book. Inside the cover, he had written, "For Emma," because even when we don't share the same language, I understand you. She didn't know what to say. Her heart beat faster, louder. That evening, she went back to the bookstore, but Julian wasn't there. She waited and waited. But the shop was closed. For the first time in days, Emma walked home with a heart full of questions again. Getting closer. The bookstore stayed closed for 3 days. Emma passed by every morning, hoping to see the warm light glowing from inside, but the windows stayed dark. She felt silly for how much it affected her. After all, it was just a bookstore, just a man she barely knew, right? But it wasn't just that. It was connection. And for the first time in a long time, she missed someone. On the 4th day, the door was open again. Emma walked in, heart racing. Julian looked up from behind the counter, startled, then smiled softly. "Sorry," he said. "Family emergency. I had to leave the city." Emma nodded. "I was worried." Then, a pause. "I missed this place." Julian's smile deepened. "I missed it too." After that, things changed, gently. They started spending more time together outside the bookstore. A Sunday walk by the Seine. Hot chocolate at a tiny cafe near Notre Dame. Watching street musicians play under golden street lamps. One afternoon, Julian showed her his favorite place in the city, a quiet courtyard hidden behind a museum with ivy-covered walls and a single wooden bench. "This is where I come to think," he said. Emma sat beside him. And what do you think about? He turned to her, eyes steady. Lately, you. There was no kiss, no dramatic music, just silence, and the kind of stillness that says everything. Emma didn't need to respond. Her hand found his, and it felt like something final and beginning at the same time. But it wasn't perfect. There were moments of misunderstanding, when words failed and frustration crept in. She tried learning French. He tried explaining feelings in English. Sometimes they laughed at the mix-ups, sometimes they didn't. One night, they argued over something small, a late message, a forgotten plan. Emma stormed out, only to return minutes later, both of them standing in the rain, silent and soaked, unsure what to say. "I don't want perfect," she whispered. "I just want real." Julian took her hand. Then we're on the right path. Their connection deepened, slowly, honestly, the kind of closeness built not from grand gestures, but from showing up, from choosing each other even on the hard days. Emma started writing again, not just emails or journal entries, but real stories. Stories in English, stories in simple sentences, stories about love, about Paris, about second chances. She shared one with Julien. He read it, eyes wide, then smiled. "This is us," he said. Emma nodded. "A little." And just like that, the city that once felt cold and distant now felt warm and familiar. Not because it had changed, but because she had a decision to make. Emma's visa was about to expire. 90 days. That's all she had. That's all this adventure was supposed to be. She hadn't told Julien yet. Each day felt heavier with the weight of the truth. She'd look at him across the bookstore, sipping his coffee, humming to old records, and wonder, how do you say goodbye to something you didn't expect to begin with? Then one evening, as they were walking near the Eiffel Tower, its lights sparkling like a million tiny promises, he noticed something in her eyes. "You're somewhere else," he said softly. She stopped walking. "I have to go back. In 2 weeks." Julien didn't speak at first, just looked out over the river. Finally, he asked, "Are you coming back?" Emma wanted to say yes, but she didn't know. What was waiting for her back home? An apartment she didn't miss? A job she didn't love? "I don't know," she whispered. They sat in silence, the city moving around them. Julien broke it. Sometimes, love is also about letting someone go. Not because you want to, but because you have to. Emma nodded. Tears filled her eyes. Not dramatic, just quiet, real. They spent the next days like nothing had changed, but everything had. They visited places they hadn't seen, took photos they might never look at again, wrote notes in the margins of books they traded like secrets. One morning, Julien gave her a map of Paris. He had circled every place they'd gone together. Underneath, he wrote, "Whatever city you're in, this one will always be ours." The night before she left, they sat on the floor of the bookstore, surrounded by novels and coffee cups. Emma leaned against him. "Do you think," she asked, "that this was real?" Julien took her hand. "It still is." The airport was cold. Airports always are. They hugged, no promises, no forevers, just the truth of the moment. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." He kissed her forehead. "Keep writing." And then she walked away. Emma returned home, but something had shifted. The streets were the same. Her apartment hadn't moved. Her neighbors still nodded politely in the hallway, but she was different now. She had walked through unfamiliar streets, sat in a bookstore that smelled like old pages and fresh beginnings, spoken words that weren't always understood, yet always heard. And she had loved someone, truly, in a place where she hadn't even meant to stay. Back home, Emma kept writing. Every day. Her English grew stronger, clearer, more confident. The stories poured out of her like water breaking through a dam. Stories of Paris, of small bookstores, of kindness and confusion, and falling in love without the right words. She sent one of those stories to Julian. He wrote back, "I understood every word." Emma smiled, because she knew, even if you don't speak the same language, even if you don't live in the same city, and even if life doesn't follow the script you planned, some stories never really end. They stay with you. Like Paris, like love, like a quiet little bookstore where everything began. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep improving your English with more romantic stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Your next adventure is just one word away.